Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to this Wednesday morning. It is about 10:30 a.m. where I am. Um, there are a few interesting things going on today. There's a headline that we've seen before and another headline that we all saw coming. Let's dive in and take a look. Microstrategy. You've seen them before. You're familiar. Michael Saylor, that guy, buying the dip. Who'd have thought? A lot of people thought that MicroStrategy was going to go insolvent, get margin called because they, have been buying Bitcoin this whole time and it's down so hard. Well, Saylor has said that they could go down another 10x. They could go down to low single-digit thousands, and MicroStrategy would be fine. He's calling their bluff. He's buying more. He's not done yet. Saylor's conviction is truly impressive, a model to follow. The guy has educated himself thoroughly, and he has changed his mind. If you go back into Michael Saylor's history, his first mention of Bitcoin is that it's not going to work. It's years ago, and it's him saying that, they're never going to be allowed to make an alternate currency. They. But here it is. Here he has changed his mind very clearly. MicroStrategy has purchased an additional 480 Bitcoins at about $10 million at an average price of $20,817 per Bitcoin as of 6/28/22. MicroStrategy holds 129,699 Bitcoins acquired for roughly $3.98 billion at an average price of $30,664 per Bitcoin. Man, what a company. What is it like to work there? What do they do besides buy Bitcoin? They're a strategy company. They're a company that does analytics and consulting. They've done a lot of things over the years. You can find MicroStrategy commercials from 20 years ago. They were buying commercials during the Super Bowl in the .com era, early 2000s, late 90s. But now they're a Bitcoin company. That's what they do today. And I think it'll work out well for them ultimately. It's going to be a rocky road, as it obviously already has been. I think we're not done yet, though. More on that later. Moving on. Just in, Three Arrows Capital has been ordered into liquidation by a British Virgin Islands court. We all saw this coming. We knew that Three Arrows Capital was insolvent. But now it's official. Now they are officially going to be bankrupt, insolvent, picked apart for pieces by, I want to say vultures, but it's not vultures. It's people they owe money to. Call them vultures if you want to. Vulture capital. That's a phrase, right? So you got Saylor who's buying and Three Arrows Capital who's going bankrupt, but they're not the only ones. Do you know Roger Ver? Are you familiar with Roger Ver? Roger Ver was one of the earliest and most vocal advocates for Bitcoin in its early development. He had the nickname Bitcoin Jesus in the early forums. And I've met Roger. I've interviewed him a few years ago at Ethereum DevCon in Cancun, Mexico. Roger's a very interesting character. I'm not passing a judgment call for or against his character, but he's definitely an interesting guy to sit down and talk with. Roger Ver, it turns out, owes $47 million to CoinFlex for playing with leverage and trying to multiply his fortune. And when I say fortune, I'm not kidding. Roger was, at one point, a very, very, very wealthy person because of his very early involvement in Bitcoin. But man, he has made some interesting and, in hindsight, and even at the time, ill-advised choices along the last few years. Now, Ver denies this in a tweet. He said, "Recently, some rumors have been spreading that I have defaulted on a debt to a counterparty. These rumors are false. Not only do I not have a debt to this counterparty, but this counterparty owes me a substantial sum of money, and I am currently seeking the return of my funds." Funny thing about this tweet, it appears to have been copied and pasted from some other document, and he didn't clear the formatting. So the lines are really weird. He didn't type this into Twitter. It calls into question whether these are Roger's own words or whether these are words that have been given to him by somebody else. It looks amateurish at the very least. He's saying that he does not owe that money. But Roger has been incorrect before. A couple notable times. Let's close that. All Roger had to do was legitimately nothing, and he'd be set for 100,000 lifetimes. This is from Dylan LeClaire of Bitcoin Magazine. Fast forward 5 years, and he's defaulting on a margin account after going bust on a leverage position on a dead fork chain. Unreal. It really is. It is unreal. Oh, I had more to say about Roger. Where is that? Okay, well, here are the mistakes that Roger has made in the past. Roger, back in the early days, I don't know if you remember MtGox. MtGox, up until about 2014, was one of the only places you could buy Bitcoin. And in the early days of 2011, 2012, 2013, it was arguably the only clear place you could buy Bitcoin until Coinbase came along. Now, I was around during the era of MtGox. MtGox was an exchange based in Japan, and it was headed by a guy named Mark Karpeles. And Mark, I believe, is French. He's not Japanese. And it was really hard to use MtGox. First of all, they didn't start as a Bitcoin or cryptocurrency exchange. MtGox stands for MtGox, Magic the Gathering Online Exchange. This was a place to trade magic cards. So that is the caliber, the seriousness of the people who were running that operation, and they kind of fell into Bitcoin, and then that took off. Well, it was difficult to use MtGox as an American citizen. I had to wire money to Japan and then wait like 2 weeks for money to actually show up into my account. Not kidding, it was like a 2-week process. I never did it. And I'm glad that I didn't. Most people who had money on MtGox didn't escape with their money. MtGox went down for 2 reasons, as I understand it. Both the incompetence of the people running it and theft. Probably internal theft. Probably somebody there absconded with the funds. And when this was happening, when there were rumors of MtGox's insolvency in 2014, I believe, maybe it was 2013, can't remember, Roger Ver very publicly said, "Oh, I just talked to Mark Karpeles, and I think everything's going to be fine." Roger Ver, MtGox. There's a great video of this, of Roger saying, "It's really the traditional banking system, you see."
I'm Roger Ver, longtime Bitcoin advocate and investor. Today I'm at the MtGox World Headquarters in Tokyo, Japan. I had a nice chat with MtGox CEO Mark Karpeles about their current situation. I'm sure that all the current withdrawal problems at MtGox are being caused by the traditional banking system, not because of a lack of liquidity at MtGox. The dozens of people that make up the MtGox team are hard at work establishing additional banking partners that eventually will make dealing with MtGox easier for all their customers around the world. Easier for all their customers around the world.
Okay, so that was Roger's first big public debacle where things had gone catastrophically wrong. But it was not the last. And in fact, this one that we're dealing with right now is not even the second. About 5 years ago, there was a big schism in the Bitcoin community about how to scale the chain. There weren't enough transactions going through. There was some real difficulty, and there were 2 different methods that were being proposed for scaling the chain. One of them was to increase the block size. The other one was to shorten the block time. I don't really remember. 2 different ways. And there were a lot of very technical people who advised doing it one way, and there were a group of other people who said, no, we need to do it this other way because it's ideologically pure. It's what Satoshi would have wanted. Roger was one of those people who was proposing to do it this other way, and this ended in a fork in the chain, a split. And this is where we get Bitcoin Cash, Bcash. So you've got the Bitcoin chain continuity from its original from 2009 when it launched, and then there was a fork off of Bitcoin Cash. Well, in 2017, a lot of people believed that maybe Bitcoin Cash would make something of itself. A lot of people thought it would be an absolute joke and wouldn't go anywhere. The latter camp was correct. Bitcoin Cash has gone down precipitously since its launch, and it has no signs of recovering ever. Bitcoin Cash. And this is where Roger had staked his entire reputation, right? This was a guy who was an early vocal leader and advocate in the Bitcoin space. And he staked his entire reputation on this. And boom, look at that. 2017 is when the split happened. People were very optimistic for a minute. And then down. And a little bit of a surge here, but it's down. If you get on the subreddit for this cryptocurrency, there are still believers. There's still people who think that this is the better way. But the reality is, it has not taken off at all. What is the market cap for Bitcoin Cash? I can tell you that it pales in comparison to Bitcoin proper, Bitcoin Core. Poor Roger. It appears he has lost everything. Again, I hold no ill will toward Roger. He's just proven to be wrong and unwise in a variety of ways. He did some really good things for the early Bitcoin world. Well, it's been volatile, friends. Luna went down, Celsius went down, Voyager's rocky and getting bailed out by Sam Bankman-Fried of Alameda Research. Three Arrows Capital went down, BlockFi also got bailed out. Compass Mining looks like it's going down, and Roger Ver is bankrupt. Bear market so bad, we need more doors on this meme. If you don't recall, this was actually the thumbnail image for my live stream yesterday. People are just falling, dropping like flies. Billions of dollars in institutional money, poof, gone. I want to shift gears a little bit. Talk a little bit about American politics, not very much. Just stick around. I'm not going to get crazy, I promise. It occurred to me this morning that Joseph Biden, the United States president, is 79 years old. My parents are fairly elderly. They are not as old as Joseph Biden. And there are a lot of people calling into question his capacity to function in the office of the President of the United States of America, one of the most important and intense jobs on the face of the planet. In fact, this is a funny statistic, morbid, macabre, but funny. What is the most dangerous job in the country? Do you give up? It's President of the United States. A meaningful portion of the people who've ever been President of the United States have been murdered on the job. Something like 2%, 4%, I can't remember. But it is the most dangerous job in the United States of America. That comes along with a lot of stress. Can a 79, almost 80-year-old handle that? Do the Democrats have anybody else to run? Well, what about the Republicans? They're dealing with their own stuff right now. Their guy is currently being investigated by his own government for insurrection, inciting an insurrection. And I'm not going to comment on whether or not I think that this is real or valid or what the reality is here. I'm just saying that the investigation is happening. Also, P.S., that man is 76 years old. Do you think he's the vibrant, spry young man we need leading the country into a bold new future? These people are old. They're very old. And we don't have anybody better to run? I'm not bullish on the United States. Yikes. And I am somebody who has historically considered myself a patriot, somebody who loves what the country, the United States of America, the ideas that it was founded on, what it stood for. This United States has so utterly failed to live up to those ideals and is now in such a state of dysfunction and brokenness that I am not bullish on the future of the United States. I've also been reading The Sovereign Individual, which is a fascinating book from the late 90s that talks about how talks about how the internet is going to radically change the role of sovereign governments. Their centrality will be disintermediated because we'll be able to get what we need through other means via the decentralized internet. Fascinating book. I should talk about it more in the future. The Sovereign Individual. Great read. Highly recommended. But I've been thinking about what would it take to start a new country. I haven't just started thinking about this. This is a tweet from 2020, October 25th, 2020. And I've tweeted about this fairly extensively, trying to just suss out my own thoughts on what it takes to start a new nation in the year 2022 or 2020, in our present time. And as it turns out, I'm not the only one thinking about this, right? Suppose that the present model of governance is so broken, there's no fixing it. You basically have to start over. How would you do that? Well, let's look to Balaji Srinivasan. Are you familiar with Balaji Srinivasan? If not, let me recap you. Balaji is a technologist and genius with an unbelievable track record of seeing the big picture and understanding what's coming down the pipeline. Balaji founded a medical tech company that got acquired for $300 million. He founded a crypto company called initially 21.co, then earn.com, then acquired by Coinbase for hundreds of millions of dollars again. Gosh, he's had so many companies acquired. Let's look real quick. Srinivasan co-founded genetic testing company Counsel. Counsel was acquired by Myriad Genetics for $375 million in 2018. In 2013, Srinivasan joined Andreessen Horowitz as a general partner. In 2014, he co-founded Teleport, a job search engine. Teleport was acquired by Topia in 2017. In 2013, Srinivasan co-founded 21.co, later earn.com, acquired by Coinbase for $100 million. He then became the CTO of Coinbase for some time. He was on the short list, Donald Trump's short list of people to head the FTC, I believe, which would have been fascinating. I would have loved that, but it didn't happen. Balaji is a genius. And it's impossible to deny that he's a genius, not just by looking at his record, but when you actually listen to the guy. He has given some talks that are so packed, that are so dense with original, sophisticated thinking about where we are societally right now, technologically. Gosh, I listen to everything this guy says. I eat it up. Love his stuff. He did a couple interviews with Tim Ferriss that together span about 8 hours. He's done lots of interviews over the last couple of years. He was one of the very first people in the Western world, in the Western Hemisphere, to see that the pandemic, the coronavirus, novel coronavirus pandemic, the flu that was happening in China in early 2020, he was one of the first people to say, this is going to be a very serious problem for us. Everybody's underestimating this. And he got made fun of for it in the press, and he ended up being prophetically right about all of it. Okay, what does Balaji have to do with any of this? We were talking about the United States, the old presidents, how do we start a new country? Balaji has written a book. This book comes out on the 4th of July, the United States Independence Day of all days. It is called The Network State. And in this, Balaji explores the idea of how do you start a new country? I'm very looking forward to this. I'm very eager to read it. In fact, I'm considering, let me know what you think, I'm considering I've already pre-ordered it. I've pre-ordered it like 2 different ways, ebook, audiobook. I'll get the physical book. I'll do all of them. I'm considering, as soon as this is released, just blocking off my schedule, reading it all the way through, and doing a video review here on this channel of everything that Balaji talks about. I'm in agreement with Balaji Srinivasan. The reason he's exploring this idea of how do you start a new country is not just because it's a fun, neat idea. It's because it's actually necessary. We are at the sunset of our empire in the United States. There are not great reasons to be optimistic about the United States' future. The only reason I have to be optimistic at all about the future of the United States is that other countries appear to be in worse shape, believe it or not. Oh. Yeah. It's ugly out there, folks. Bitcoin Magazine had a tweet about inflation. This is a bit of a tangent, but not much. Let me see if I can find it. It was looking at the inflation rates of different countries. There it is. The United States is at record high 8.6% inflation, but we are not the highest by any long stretch. You've got Venezuela and Turkey and Argentina and Russia, Poland, Brazil, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and Spain. All of these have higher inflation than the United States. What's the only chance we have? Well, short of starting a new country, which is a pretty tall order. I am actually interested in that, but I don't think I could pull it off on my own. But so far as protecting yourself, I really only have one thing to offer. Literally one thing. It's get your hands on some Bitcoin and get it in very secure self-custody. That's it. Okay, that's not totally it. I also think that I'm getting kind of doomsday and thinking about like bug out bags and bug out locations. But that's a topic for another day, isn't it? Not a bad idea. Maybe something to look into. Buy some remote land, build a cabin, have some food storage, have some basic supplies, be self-sufficient in any and every way you can. Be a sovereign individual. All right. That's what I got, team. Am I crazy? Let me know down in the comments if you think I'm a crazy person. If not, tune in tomorrow because we'll do another live stream. I'm aiming to do these every day. All right, folks. We'll talk again soon. Thanks, team. Bye.